Hi everyone, my name's Jordan and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing a series check-in. So basically I want to go through every series that I have incomplete. This will include series that aren't finished yet by the author, as well as series that I just haven't finished or series I've DNF'd. So needless to say, this list is extensive. As I was curating this list, I was like, holy shit, this is so many series. So I'm not going to be doing synopsises of these. Hopefully by my saying if I'm going to continue it or not, will let you know if you should look into it. I don't know. I just know that if I do a synopsis of every single one of these series, this video will be hours long, and neither of us have the time for that. So I'm just going to go through them, tell you how many books of them I've read, if I plan on continuing it, and just a general thought of it. So without further ado, let's get into it. First up, I have the First Law trilogy. The first one being The Blade Itself by Joe Abercrombie. I just read this book. This is the first book of the series. There are 3. I gave this book, I think, 3 out of 5 stars. Didn't hate it, but it is not on my favorites yet. I think a lot of this book was set up for the rest of the series, so didn't love this one, but hoping that I enjoy the rest of the series. So I will be continuing on with this one. Most of you have heard of this series if you are watching my mostly fantasy YouTube channel. So I will be continuing with this one. I've only read one of these. Next up, I have Between Earth and Sky by Rebecca Rowanhorse, the first one being Black Sun. I just finished Fevered Star, which just came out last month, I believe, which is the second book. So I've only read 2 of these. Loved Black Sun. Fevered Star had a lot of middle book syndrome, so definitely continuing on with the series. So I think that the setup from the second book is superb, and I think the third one will hopefully blow me out of the water. Definitely recommend this series. Next up, I have The Bloodsworn Saga by John Gwynne. The first one is The Shadow of the Gods. The Hunger of the Gods just came out last month, and I read it. I loved it. I've said it a lot on my channel, but this one I was unsure of. I didn't hate it. I definitely liked it. I just didn't really get the hype, but the second one really blew me out of the water. I am very pumped to continue on with the series. Definitely recommend this series. So I've read 2 out of however many are going to be in the series. I do not know if it's a trilogy. It does not say. So I will be continuing on with this series. Norse-inspired fantasy. Love this series so far. You should read it. Next up, I have the Sandsea trilogy by Chelsea Abdullah, the first one being The Stardust Thief. This just came out in April, I believe, and I got it as an ARC, and as soon as I finished it, immediately pre-ordered it because I loved it. It's like a Arabic setting and super atmospheric, super cinematic. I loved it. Very exciting to continue on with this series, but there is only this one out. Next up, I have The Wheel of Time by Robert Jordan. The first one being The Eye of the World. This is my super battered, used copy I got from Thrift Books. I have read the first 4 of this series. The 4th one is The Shadow Rising, I believe. First one I liked. Second one I really liked. Third one, hated. 4th one, enjoyed. I say all of that loosely because the writing is so buck wild that it is really hard for me to fully enjoy these stories. But I do plan on continuing them. I've kind of taken it off of my priority list though, just because I think if I read them too quickly, I am going to end up hating the series. I don't know. I don't know if I'll be able to finish the whole series, that's for sure. I don't know if there's a single character that I'm invested in enough to read the entire series. So we'll see. This is a TBD on how far I'll get in it, but I do plan on continuing on, at least trying a little bit longer. Next up, I have The Locked Tomb by Tamsin Muir. This is the second one. I don't own the first one. The first one is Gideon the Ninth. I'm currently reading this one. Really enjoyed the first one a lot. The first time I read it, I didn't. I listened to it as an audiobook and I had no idea what was going on. So I tried again as a physical copy and loved it. And so now have moved on to Harrow the Ninth. I am enjoying Harrow the Ninth so far. I'm like 120 pages in. However, I have no idea what's going on, like none whatsoever. The beginning of this is so weird, and I've looked on Goodreads and a lot of the reviews say that it stays like that for like 70%. However, it's not like putting me off. Like I am not regretting starting it. Like, I'm not reading it and being like, oh, this sucks. Like, when will I know what's going on? I'm still absolutely loving it. So going in, empty head, all vibes, still loving it. I think there's supposed to be 4 books in this series, so I will be reading on. I guess depending on how much I like this book, but I have very high hopes, so I assume I will be reading on. Next up, I have The Legends of the First Empire by Michael J. Sullivan. I have read 4 of these. There are 6, and I am absolutely loving them. They're so magical, so beautiful, the best setting, the best characters. I love them so much. The only reason I have not finished the series is because my library cards I have only offer the first 4 as audiobooks, so 5 and 6 I will need to check out as physical copies, and it is a little harder for me to slot in physical copies into my TBR than it is for audiobooks because I'm listening to audiobooks the whole time I'm at work. So definitely continuing on with the series. I love it so much, just haven't gotten to 5 and 6 yet, but I absolutely adore this series. Next up, I have The Dark Gods by Tara Sim. This is the first one, The City of Dusk. I got this as an ARC and really enjoyed it, so I pre-ordered it. This is the only one that's out so far. It just came out this year. It is very good. I enjoyed it so much. I've heard mixed reviews on it. I don't think it's very highly rated on Goodreads, but I really liked it, and I am going to continue on as they all come out. Once the second one is announced, I'll probably pre-order it right away. Excited to continue on with this story. Next up, I have the Crescent City series by Sarah J. Maas. This is the second one because my first one my friend is borrowing, so this is House of Sky and Breath. The first one is House of Earth and Blood. If you are a reader, you've heard of Sarah J. Maas, so you've probably seen this series. I will be continuing on with this series solely for the ending of this book because most of this book was boring. Too many points of view. I have a full review up for this book, so go check that out if you want to know what I thought about it. I will be continuing on, but less enthusiastically than I went into this book. So there we go. Next, I have Adrian and Isolde by Scarlett St. Clair. The first one is The King of Battle and Blood. I've read the first one, and I didn't like it. I read it in one sitting. It was like a kind of fun, steamy vampire romance, but like the plot was so out there. I didn't like it at all. Thought the plot was bad. Steamy scenes weren't good enough to make up for it. I probably won't be continuing on with this series. Next up, I have Earthsea by Octavia Butler. The first one being Parable of the Sower. I loved this book. It is a sci-fi dystopian future Earth kind of story. I will be continuing on with this series. The second one is Parable of the Talents. Very excited to continue on with this one. After that, I have The Expanse by James S.A. Corey. I read the first one, and it was okay. I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. I'll probably continue on, but this one is also not going to be on a priority list for me. It'll probably be if I'm just really feeling the vibes of like the way this story goes, I'll pick it up. I'm interested in following one of the plot lines through. Like, I am actually interested, so I probably will continue it. I just, half of the characters I don't really love, and I don't really like their points of view. So I'm hoping that either we don't get that person, Miller, in the rest of the books, or he stops being the way he is. I don't have high hopes for that. But I do like the crew, and I do like the plot line with, like, the whole parasite thing. So I'm excited to continue on, just not a priority. Next, I have Naruto by Masashi Kishimoto. This is, everyone's heard of Naruto. It's a huge anime series. I'm reading the mangas because my husband loves Naruto and figured it would be something for us to bond over. I've read 63 of them. There's only 73, so I'm almost there. I'm almost done. But these last few have just been so boring. And my husband is so stressed about it because I just am having such a hard time picking up the next one. I've been in the 60s for months now because I just find this climactic ending to be so boring right now. I'm hoping it picks up, but there's just so much going on and I don't want to spoil it. I'm gonna finish it purely for completion's sake because I'm so close. It's just hard for me to start. Next, I have Empire of the Wolf by Richard Swan. This is the first one, The Justice of Kings. I loved this book. I got it as an ARC and I immediately pre-ordered it. Came out this year. Definitely going to be continuing on with the series. As soon as the second one is announced, I will be pre-ordering it. Highly recommend this series. based on the synopsis, I didn't think it would be a book for me, but I read it anyway, and I'm very glad I did because I loved it. So if the synopsis maybe doesn't seem like it's the book for you, maybe give it a shot. You might like it. I was surprised by it, so definitely recommend. Next, I have The Ivory Key by Akshaya Raman. This is, I believe, a new series. I'm pretty sure it's a new series. I read the first one, and I don't think the second one's out yet. I liked the first one, didn't love it, but it was definitely good. I'm not sure if I'll continue on with it. I guess we'll see when the second one's announced. It might be something that, like, when it comes out, I'll just check out the audiobook and give it a shot. So definitely not on my priority to finish list. It's not, the second one's not even out yet, so it can't be a priority anyway. But, like, I'm not gonna be rushing to the bookstore to get this. So we'll see when the second one comes out what I feel like doing. Next up, I have Dark Olympus by Katie Robert. This is the second one, Electric Idol. The first one is Neon Gods. Neon Gods was huge on Book Talk, which is why I read it, and I really liked it. So then I read Electric Idol when it came out and hated it. I didn't like it at all. I thought it was bad compared to Neon Gods. I am going to read the third one, Wicked Beauty, I think is what it's called, solely because I have faith that she'll pull through in this third one. We'll see. They're quick reads anyway. A lot of romances are such quick reads that, like, if I liked at least one of them, I'll give it a shot. So we'll see. I'm not going to pre-order the third one, though, just in case it's as bad as this one, because I made that mistake with this one. I hated this book, so. But I have hopes that the third one will be better. Next up, I have Skyward by Brandon Sanderson. This is the third one, Cytonic. The first one is called Skyward. This is a sci-fi young adult series by Brandon Sanderson that is absolutely incredible. It is so enjoyable. The first one was definitely the best. The second and third have been good. I actually really liked the third. The second one was okay. The first one was a masterpiece. I am going to be continuing the series. I think there's only going to be one more, if I'm not mistaken. I have not read the short story collection yet, so I do want to get to that. But I definitely recommend this series. It is an easy read, and it's very fun. Next, I have Little Thieves by Margaret Owen. I've read the first one. I think that's all that's out. I really liked it. I'll probably be continuing on with it. Not a priority series for me. It's not something I'm going to pre-order the second one of, but I will listen to the audiobook. I did really enjoy Little Thieves. Next up, I have The Atlas by Olivia Blake, the first one being The Atlas 6. If you've watched almost any video on my channel, you'll know my thoughts, so highly recommend this. The second book comes out this year. It's called The Atlas Paradox. Very excited for it. Of course, we'll be continuing on. One of the best books I've read this year. Definitely recommend. Next, I have Kithmar by Daniel Abraham, the first one being The Age of Ash. I didn't like this book, like, at all. I mean, not at all. There were a few things I liked about it, but the plot I didn't like. So I probably will not be continuing on with this series. The first one just did not do enough to hold my attention, so yeah. I've heard that some people love this series, so look into it if you like fantasy. Daniel Abraham is a really well-known author, so this is my first book I've read of his, and I just didn't like it, so maybe it just wasn't for me. But look into it if you would like, but I probably will not be continuing on. Next, I have Kingdom of the Wicked by Carrie Maniscalco. This is, I think, a really fun series. There's 2 out. I've read both. I believe I have the third one pre-ordered already. I think it's just a really fun fantasy romance. It's not really high stakes. They're just enjoyable reads. They're not, I wouldn't say they're literary masterpieces. The plot lines are shaky, I guess, but I just think they're so much fun. I read them quickly. They're a lot of fun, and that's what we're reading for, right? Next, I have Defy the Night by Bridget Kimmerer. Only the first one is out of this one, which I've read, and I really liked it. I think it was an improvement on the Cursebreaker series, so I will be continuing on with it. Not a priority for me. I don't have it pre-ordered. It will be an audiobook read probably, but I did really enjoy it, so I will be continuing on with this series. Next, I have Gentleman Bastard by Scott Lynch. I talk about this book and series a lot on this channel as well. Love this series. Who knows if we'll ever get a 4th book. It's on my wish list. But Scott Lynch is on that George R.R. Martin train, on that Patrick Rothfuss train. Who knows if he'll ever finish it. Hope he does, though, because I do really love this series. I think the third one kind of meandered in a direction I didn't love. It was like more romance focused. But the first and the second I adore. I think the second might actually be my favorite. They're so good. So definitely check it out. But don't if you have a problem with unfinished series, because we do not know if this one will ever be finished. Next up is Magic of the Lost by C.L. Clarke, the first one being Unbroken. I actually really liked this book. Only the first one's out so far. I will be reading the second. I really enjoyed it. I kind of went into it a little hesitantly because it was kind of really hyped in the book community. So I was really hesitant to go into it because I always get nervous I won't like a hyped book. But I did really like it. There were definitely some faults I found with it, but not enough to keep me from continuing on. It was a really fun story, and the romance is cute, and the plot and the setting are really great, so I will be finishing. Next, I have The First Sister by Lyndon A. Lewis. I have read the first one and part of the second one, and I DNF'd it. I don't think I'll continue on. The second one was just really boring. I don't remember how far I got into it, but I just was not enjoying it as much as I did the first one. I liked the first one. It wasn't the best book I've ever read, but I did enjoy it. But yeah, I just couldn't get into it from there. The second one just wasn't great, so I don't think I'll be finishing this one. Next, I have Iron Widow. This is a really talked about book, and I didn't love it. The first one's out. I think that's it. I don't think I'll be continuing on with it. It's YA, so I've already kind of grown out of YA a little bit, but I thought big robots would be cool, but the plot and the main character were just not good. And I know it was a debut, but I just thought the writing was amateur, and I thought that the main character was annoying, and the themes and the messages pushed through were not good. So yeah, I don't think I'll be continuing on with this one. Next, I have Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber. The first one is only out, and I really loved it. I just love Stephanie Garber's writing. It's so fantastical and magical, and I will definitely be continuing on. The second book has been announced. I don't know when it comes out, but I am definitely going to be reading it. Next, I have The Drowning Empire by Andrea Stewart, which is one of my favorite fantasy series I've started. Love this series. I've read the first two that are both out. The third one, I believe, does not have a date yet. Not sure. But Andrea Stewart has been writing it, and I follow her on Twitter, and she cracks me up. She's always just like, listen, I'm gonna break you with this book. She knows that ending is gonna break us, and I'm so scared but so excited for it. I really, really love this series. Of course, I will be continuing on with it. I've talked about it in a few other videos, so check out this series. I feel like I never see anyone talking about it. The only other booktuber I've seen talking about it is Elliot Brooks, so please go read this series. More people should be reading it. It's incredible. Next, I have Primas of Power by Alexis Daria. This is a romance series. I've read the first two, and I believe that's all that's out. I just like her romance books. They're really good. I loved the first two, so however many she writes, I'll probably read them. They're great. Next, I have Fractured Fables by Alex E. Harrow. I believe the second one is either out or already announced, but I have not read it. I've read the first one, and I really, really liked it. It was like a novella. It was short. It was like a fantasy retelling. I think that one was Sleeping Beauty, I think. No, I don't remember. But I really, really, really loved that book. So I will definitely be reading the second one. I should actually go check and see if that's out. Next, I have The XX by Aaron Sterling. I honestly didn't know this was a series until I was collecting this list, and I was scrolling through Goodreads, and in Goodreads, like, after the book title, I'll have in parentheses the name of the series and, like, the number in the series it is. And this one said it was the first in a series, so I didn't even know it was part of a series, but I really liked The XX. It's a romance book, so if there's going to be more, I'll read it. It's not like the best romance book I've ever read, but it was fun, and it was spooky. It was perfect for the Halloween season, so maybe the next one will come out in the Halloween season as well, and maybe it'll be about a family member, because that's how a lot of a lot of romance series work. So we'll see. Next, I have The Keeper of Night by Kylie Lee Baker. This is a Japanese-inspired fantasy book that I really enjoyed. I got it as an ARC. I think I won it in a Goodreads giveaway, and really enjoyed it. I don't see anyone talking about it. It's not very long. Definitely recommend it. I also didn't know it was going to be part of a series until that cliffhanger ending, so very excited for the second one. It's dark, it's spooky, it's really good. Next, I have The Bellinger Sisters by Tessa Bailey. This is a romance series. I believe the second one is out. Actually, I know the second one is out because I think I have it on hold at the library, but the first one was really good. I didn't love it like some of my favorite romances, but I didn't hate it. It was good, so I'm excited to read the second one. This is going to be a quick, fun read. Next, I have The Burning by Evan Winter, the first one being The Rage of Dragons. I've talked about this book in a bunch of videos. I love this series. The first 2 are out. I believe there's going to be 4 in the series. I've read both of the first 2. Super, super excited for the third. I will be first in line to pre-order it when it is officially announced, if it hasn't already been. I don't think it has, but I love this series. It's got dragons, so just go read it. Next up, I have Wilderwood by Hannah F. Whitten. This is a YA fantasy Little Red Riding Hood retelling. I really liked it. Definitely going to be reading the second one. Not a super high priority. It'll probably be an audiobook read, but definitely looking forward to this one. Next, I have The Extraordinaries by T.J. Klune, which is a YA superhero romance adorable book. The first one was so cute. The second one I thought was kind of off. I didn't love it as much as the first one. There were a few problems I had with it, but still gonna read the third one, Flashfire, I believe it's called. I was denied the ARC on NetGalley, so I'll be reading it at the same time as everyone else, so excited for it though. Next, I have A Course of Dragons by Jen Lyons. This series I'd seen everywhere and decided to read it. I read the first 2, and then I believe I DNF'd the third. I either DNF'd the third or just decided after the second one I didn't want to read them. They are so confusing. So confusing. And everyone says that, and everyone says they're worth it, but I just couldn't get into it. The first one I actually did like, but the second one, I was just so confused through so much of it, and I was like, is it worth it for me to be making my brain work this hard to just sort of enjoy it? So yeah, I don't think I'll be continuing on with this series. I'll have to be in a very specific headspace to want to get back into this one. Next, I have The Radiant Emperor by Shelley Parker Chan. I see this one talked about all the time. Everyone raves about it, and I did not like it that much. I thought that the main character was interesting for the first part, and then towards the end I just didn't really enjoy her character. There were definitely parts of it I did like, but yeah, I don't know. This one, I don't think it's for me. I might read the second one just to try it because I am interested in how this first one ended. So I might pick up the second one, but it is not on my priority list. Next, I have Texa Kalan by Arcady Martin. I am not 100% sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but the first one is A Memory Called Empire. I really liked Memory Called Empire, and then I started the second one and DNF'd it. I didn't hate it, it was just kind of boring. I might try to pick it back up again later because I did really like the first one, so we'll see. I don't know, not a high priority. Next, I have Realmbreaker by Victoria Aveyard. This is the first in a YA series. The second one has been announced, Blade Breaker, and I believe I already have it pre-ordered. I love Victoria Aveyard. She has such a funny and relatable Instagram page, so I did really like this. There were definitely some slow parts. It's very info dumpy because it is a huge amount of lore that she had to get through, so definitely info dumpy, but I think that the second one will probably pick up more because we kind of are situated in the world. So I did enjoy this one. I will be continuing on. Next, I have The Aurelian Cycle by Rosaria Munda, the first one being Fireborn. If you've watched literally almost any video on this channel, you'll know how I feel about this series. One of my favorite series ever, and it's not even done. The third one has been announced. I do already have it pre-ordered. It comes out in August. I am so excited for it. I definitely recommend this book. There's dragons in it, so basically if there's dragons in a book, I will probably read it just to see if I like it. So I highly recommend this series. It's a YA fantasy, but if you're not normally a reader of YA, I would still highly recommend this series. Ninth House. The second one has finally been announced, called Hellbent, I believe. It's got a really, really dope cover. I've seen mixed reviews on the cover, but I think it's awesome. It's super spooky, super cool. Very excited to continue on. This is her adult fantasy series. It's urban fantasy, which I'm normally not a huge fan of, but I really liked Ninth House, and I am so excited for the second one. Next up, I have Burning Kingdoms by Tasha Suri, the first one being The Jasmine Throne. I really liked this book, but I didn't love it as much as some other people I've seen review it. I will definitely be reading the second one, but it will not be a priority for me. Definitely worth checking out though. Next, I have Red Rising by Pierce Brown. I read the first one and then DNF'd the second one. I tried so hard, guys. I wanted to like it so bad. I might try to stick it out and try again because I've heard that the second half of the series or whatever is amazing, incredible writing. So I might try again, but I was so bored in the first one, and then the second one started, and I was like, man, I'm still not into this. I don't see why everyone's raving about it all the time. I thought it was so boring. Normally I can like see like, oh, it just wasn't for me. But this one I'm like, what did y'all see that I didn't see? Because I want to see it. I want to be there with you all. Next I have The Nameless Republic by Suyi Davies Okungboa. I'm not 100% sure if I am pronouncing that correctly, so I apologize if I'm not. This is a book that I did like, but I didn't love. I had an arc of it, and I thought it was a good first book. I didn't think it was amazing. I'll probably be continuing on with it, but I will not make it a priority. But it does have a stunning cover. Next I have The Zui Shin Chronicles by Alicia J. Novo. I didn't like this book. It was an arc I got. I thought it was really boring, but I think it was because it was written for an audience that was not me. It is written for a much younger audience, so won't be continuing on with it, not because it's a bad series, but just because it's not a series that is written for people my age. Next I have Camelot Rising by Kiersten White. This is her like Arthur retelling thing. I thought it was really boring. Again, I think it's because it's not my age group. I had high hopes for it because I really liked her other series. So I had really high hopes for this one, and I just thought it was really boring. Again, not because it's a bad book, just because not written for me. I think I only read the first one of this series. Next I have The Murderbot Diaries by Martha Wells. I've read the first two. These aren't bad by any means, but everyone's like always raving about them, and I just thought it was okay. Like I was like, they're cute, but they're short, so like we aren't getting a whole lot. I'll probably continue on like as filler, but I just don't really see why everyone's always talking about them. Maybe they get better as they go on. They're cute for sure, like Murderbot's fun, but like I don't see the hype. I don't get it. Next I have The Dark Tower by Stephen King. I am a huge Stephen King fan. I don't talk about him much on this channel, mostly because I haven't read a lot of Stephen King in the past few years. But throughout high school and college, I read a lot of Stephen King. I've probably read over 40 of his books, but for some reason, I cannot get into The Dark Tower. I read the first two and DNF'd the third. I thought the first one was so boring. The second one was okay. And then the third one was again so boring. I think that his characters in this one are unlikable. The plot is boring. It's just like them traveling. I don't know. I just didn't get it. I don't think I'll be continuing on. I don't think I'll be trying again. This last time was already my second attempt, so I just don't see myself enjoying it. And I've heard that there's an even bigger slump later, and I'm like, well, the whole series has been a slump, so how are we gonna slump more? Next I have The Raven Rings by Siri Peterson. This is a translated fantasy book that I had gotten as an ARC, and then I got the second one as an ARC and never read it. It was good. It was interesting. It just wasn't amazing. So the second one is a book that I might read one day, but I don't have it on as a priority. The first one was definitely interesting, and I enjoyed it, just not something I loved. Next, I have Mistborn Era 2, which I've read all three that are out. The fourth one just had its cover reveal, so I'm so pumped for it. I loved Era 2. I feel like everyone always says that Era 2 is not as good as Era 1, but I might be in the minority that I think Era 2 was more fun than Era 1. Era 1 was definitely good. Like, I love Mistborn. I love it, love it. But I feel like Mistborn Era 2 was like way more fun to read. Now, it might be because I read Era 1 as a physical copy and I listened to Era 2, and narrators are great, so it might be that's why I enjoyed it so much more. But I did love both series and so excited for this fourth book. Next, I have The Legendborn Cycle by Tracy Deonn. I have read the first one. The second one has been announced, and I have it pre-ordered. I loved this book. It is a YA fantasy, urban fantasy. It is really good. Really recommend it. Excited for the second one. Next, I have These Violent Delights by Chloe Gong. I've read the first one. I don't plan on reading the second one. I don't get the hype. I think it was really, really boring. The plot was boring. The romance did not entertain me at all. Yeah, I don't get the hype around this one. I see people talking about it all the time, and I'm like, did we read the same book? I didn't enjoy it, and I do not see myself picking up the second one. Next, I have Spoiler Alert by Olivia Dade, which is a romance series. I really liked this first one. I'm not sure if the second one's out or not yet, but it's about two fanfic authors falling in love, so like, what more do you need? Excited for the second one. Definitely recommend. Next, I have Bethel by Alexis Henderson. I did enjoy this book. I did not know it was part of a series until I was making this list. I don't know if I'll continue on because I didn't love it. I just liked it. Not high priority. Yeah. I've seen people talking about it, and I've seen people liking it, so worth checking out if you want that spooky, witchy vibe. It just wasn't for me. Next, I have Raybearer by Jordan Ifueko. I will probably read the second one, but it is not a priority for me. I read the first one, and I don't believe the second one is out yet. Either that or it just recently came out. I don't remember. The first one I enjoyed. I think this is another one of just me being too old for it, because I see people raving about it all the time, and I can see the draw towards it, and I think if I had read it like 5 to 10 years ago, I would have absolutely loved it. I think I'm just a little old for it. However, I do think that the characters might grow up a little bit in the second one, so I am still going to read it and see if I like it better. So I will continue on. It's just not a priority for me. Next, I have The Stormlight Archive by Brandon Sanderson. This is the second one because the first one my friend is borrowing. The first 4 are out. I've read all 4, and I absolutely love them. I've talked about them on other videos. Don't have to say much because everyone knows about the Stormlight Archive if you are a fantasy reader, so definitely recommend this if you haven't read it, though. They are chunky. They're all humongous, but they're so worth the read. Definitely recommend. Very excited for the 5th one. And then after the 5th one, we're supposed to get a very long break before the last 5, so really sad about that, but excited for what we'll get in between. Next, I have The Founders Trilogy by Robert Jackson Bennett. I read the first 2 that are out, and I have the 3rd one available to me as an ARC, but I don't know if I'll read it. I didn't love the first 2. I'm not sure why I even requested this 3rd one, maybe for completion's sake, so maybe I will read it. I don't know. I just didn't love the first 2. I thought they were kind of boring. I've seen some people raving about them and some people not liking them. Very mixed reviews, so a very interesting magic system. Definitely worth checking out if you like a very complex magic system, but yeah, I just thought it was kind of boring. Next, I have Blood and Ash by Jennifer L. Armentrout. I will not be continuing this one. I read the first 2, and then I DNF'd the 3rd one. It was so boring, and everyone was like, it doesn't even get good till 80% in, and I refuse. So I don't see myself continuing. I liked the first one, I liked the second one, but I didn't love them. I didn't think they were groundbreaking in any way, and the 3rd one was not keeping my attention long enough for me to enjoy it. Next, I have Boyfriend Material by Alexis Hall. I've read the first one, which is the only one that's out, I believe. I will be continuing on. It's a cute romance series, and I thought it was adorable. Less steamy than romances I normally read, but I still liked it, so I'll be reading the next one when it comes out. Next, I have A Song of Race and Ruin by Suzanne Brown. This is a YA fantasy series. The first one is out, and I believe that's it. I liked it. Not a priority for me to continue, but I probably will. Again, this one is just, I'm not the age group for it. There was a moment of time where I was kind of transitioning from YA to adult, where I was reading a lot of YA and realizing that it just wasn't the age range for me, and I just wasn't really enjoying it as much. So yeah, this was part of that time when I was like, why am I not enjoying so many of these books? And then I realized I was just reading books that I had grown out of. So this is still a good story. I will probably read the second one, but definitely not on my priority list. Next, I have The Selection by Kira Cass. I won't be finishing the series. I read the first one and could totally see where the series is going, and I am not interested. It was not a series for me. I know they're really hyped, but just not my cup of tea. Next, I have Something Dark and Holy by Emily A. Duncan. This is another book that was in my transition phase from YA to adult, and I really thought it was boring and poorly written, so I will not be continuing on with this one. Next, I have The Kingkiller Chronicles by Patrick Rothfuss. I've read the first one, and I have no interest in the second one. This is another series that the author has not put out another book in years, so don't really have a lot of draw to read the second one, but I also hated this book. So I'm sorry to everyone that loves this book, because this is like some people's favorite book of all time, and I just don't get it. The main character is unlikable, the plot is boring, just not a book for me. I'm not going to continue on with it. I'm going to unhaul this book at some point. Actually, I borrowed this from a coworker, so maybe I'll give it back to him, but he moved away, so maybe I'll just donate it. We'll see. I didn't like this book. Next, I have Serpent and Dove by Shelby Mahurin. Won't be continuing on with this one. I thought this first book was so bad. I didn't get the hype. Yeah, I just didn't like it. Plot was bad. The romance was uninteresting. Not for me. I did not like this book at all. I remember everyone raving about it, and then the second one came out and everyone was like, oh, this series, and I was like, what are you reading? Because it's not the same thing I'm reading. Next I have the Blood Heir trilogy by Amelie Wen Zhao. I read this because I needed a book and I was at an airport and I just grabbed it, and I thought it was okay, but it was boring. I won't be continuing on. It wasn't like a bad book. Again, YA. I was growing out of YA, so won't be continuing on with this one. Next I have Legacy of Orisha by Tomi Adeyemi. This is the first one, Children of Blood and Bone. I absolutely adored this first book, and then the second one I thought was, I don't know if it was rushed or what, it definitely had middle book syndrome, but I am very excited to read the third, hoping that it comes back around to being great. Definitely recommend. It's a very, very good book. This is YA, but one I enjoyed, so we're almost done, guys. Next I have Three Dark Crowns by Kendare Blake. I did enjoy this book, but I don't have much of a priority to finish the series. It's YA. While I do think I'd probably enjoy it, I just have so many other books that I want to read more, so I don't know if I'll finish this one. And last but not least, A Song of Ice and Fire. This is the second one. I don't own the first one. I thought I did. I've talked about this series in a few other videos. I didn't like it. I read the first 4 and then DNF'd the 5th. I liked like the first 2, maybe the third one too, but the 4th one I was like, what is happening? And then the 5th one I was just so bored. I don't see myself continuing on with it. I know that it may never end. It may never be finished, so I don't feel too bad about it, but I just didn't like where the story was going. It just started to get boring, and I felt like all of the main character deaths were starting to make me like numb to them. It was just too much to where I just didn't care about any of the characters, because why would I grow an attachment to anyone if everyone's dying? It was just nonsensical death that didn't really further the plot to me. So here we are. That was a little ranty compared to the little I talked about these other series, but I feel like I get attacked a lot for not liking the series, and I just didn't like it. So I don't know, guys. Sorry. That is all of the series I am in the middle of. That is terrifying. Granted, many of them I don't plan on continuing, so that kind of shortens the list of series I have to finish. Also, a lot of them, I've read all of the ones that are out, so that makes it a little more digestible because I'll just read them as they come out. Some of them, though, I just am in the middle of because I just haven't finished them. So, granted, that was a minority of them. Most of the series I haven't finished that I'm excited to continue. I've read all of the ones that are out. So, if I'm loving a series, I will read whatever's out. So, most of the ones that are unfinished that have other ones out, I just haven't made a priority for one reason or another. My voice is starting to get hoarse from recording this video, so I hope you guys enjoyed it. I know it was a long one, and it probably got a little dry at times because I was just trying to get through it. There's so many series on this list in front of me, and I have 3 huge stacks of books of just the ones I owned the first one of, or at least one of. So thank you for watching. Thank you for your patience. If you liked this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know if there are any of these series that you particularly love that I should prioritize finishing. As long as it's not one of the ones I said I will absolutely not be finishing. Thank you guys for your support. Of course, it means the world to me, and as always, thank you for watching.